Do we have any visitors wishing to address the committee?
My name is Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I'd like to ask that you consider having your IT person tape the remaining budget meetings and post them on the county website. There are many people who, due to health reasons, work commitments, personal and children's activities, or physical handicaps, can't attend county committee meetings or even commission meetings. The cameras are already here, they're paid for, and it would be so easy to let Mr. Atkins or another county employee tape these meetings and then put them on a county website or a county YouTube site. Then you can branch out to Planning Commission, Solid Waste Board, Joint Economic Board. All these things that even you all have never attended or know about. Some of you, and I realize some of you do, or you're members of it. I rarely see you attend something just as a citizen. I want you to check out the Carter County website. They have been taping meetings since November 2018. They've got about 50 or so videos on there. Every monthly commission meeting, they've got planning commission meetings, they've got budget meetings, buildings and grounds committees. It's very impressive, and I think we could do as well or better than that. So I invite you to consider that. I would also ask that you please scan and post the school board budget to the county website. Obviously, that's the biggest budget for Hamlin County, and I think the people should be able to see it if they want to. That's what transparency is all about, not forcing somebody to look at something, but giving them the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other visitors wishing to address the committee? If not, in old business, we have none. In new business, we would like to ask Dr. Jeff Perry, the Director of Schools, to speak to the budget. And before he gets started, we'd like to congratulate him on his nomination as the potential Superintendent of the Year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We must have had some low standards this year. So, I certainly do appreciate the opportunity to present to the board tonight. And as we go through this, we do have the PowerPoint that we gave to you, and we will also post this on our website so that individuals can have an opportunity to look at it, because we do want everybody to understand that we are open and transparent with it. So what we hope to accomplish tonight, number one, of course, we want to share our budget. You've got a copy of actually a line item budget that Ms. Anderkin put together. We're always very fortunate to have her working with us. Also, we will share our reopening plan. I know that you may get a couple of questions about the reopening plan. And then we'll also provide an update on West High School. And you'll answer any questions that you have. So if there's any time that you don't want to hear more information about the reopening plan of West High School, then we'll exit that particular piece. But as we go through this, first of all, we want to just express our appreciation, I think, from our Board of Education to every member of the central office staff, to every one of our teachers. We appreciate your support. I think throughout the years, the County Commission has been extremely supportive of the school division, and we appreciate that. And we know there's many people come to you with their hands out every single day. And we know that we probably have the biggest hand. And we appreciate the support that you've given to us, and I hope that we've been good stewards of your money. As mentioned before, we do want to be open and transparent in everything that we do. We always try to be real upfront. We will ask you for what we need. We'll try not to ask you for anything that we don't need. We'll be real clear on what we need, and then we'll follow up with you as we go throughout the school year. This year, we do understand the challenges. Believe me, more so than any other person maybe in the county, I understand the challenges associated with this virus has caused, especially financial. I know while a lot of people are struggling, it all comes right back to this point, because there's increased operational costs, less revenue, and so I know it's difficult times. I understand that, and I can certainly appreciate that. What we have done in the past, as we go through this, we could go through each line item of the budget. That's extremely tedious. I think that it's sometimes very difficult to understand. So a lot of times what we try to do is just simplify the process. This is what we had last year. This is our additional expenses we got this year, and this is what we're asking you for to kind of help us. I think that helps to kind of simplify the process and let you know where we are. If there's any specific questions about particular portions of the budget, then we'll be happy to answer that. As we go through this, one of the things that we'd like is just say, now this is just on the general fund, but on the state revenue, we get about 65% of our budget comes from the state, about 33% from the local revenue. Fund about 2% out of the fund balance, and then we've got a couple other grants and flow-through monies that come through, but the majority from the state. This doesn't account to federal funds, but certainly the local government provides 31%, almost a third of our budget, and we certainly do appreciate that. As we begin to look at this, even though the percentages are not in here right now, and what happens is that when we put it on a different laptop, it actually changes the format. So in your sheet, you actually have the numbers in there. But with this, about 84% of our entire budget, and that's the blue section, that goes to salary and benefits. And if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, 95% of that money goes toward funds for personnel in the school. So not uncommon, and your budget's probably the same way. The vast majority, somewhere between 72 and 85%, would go to personnel. Ours is about 84%. But 95% of that will actually go to somebody in the school. So 95 cents out of every dollar that we spend on salary and benefits goes to somebody that you would connect with the school. So you can see custodians and transportation, technology, capital outlay, that represents the other 5% there. So I think we are putting our money exactly where we need to, is in our people. Our budget priorities this year, as we went through, it's always staff and student safety, but this year our main priority, of course, was staff and student safety because of everything that's going on. We tried to absorb the health insurance increases for that single individual, which was about $72. We also provided the step degree, the step increases, and the degree change. And what the degree change is that if we went from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree, we have an incentive for doing that because we feel like you have increased your ability. So that is something that we put in there. And then also we have a step for individuals, and that step is actually very different. Sometimes it's only $200, sometimes it may be $500, sometimes it may be $900, kind of depending on where you are along the step. After about 22 steps or so, I think that there's no longer a step increase with that, but at that time you're at the top of the scale, so you're making a little bit more than most folks would. And then number 4, the other thing that we're doing is creating online options for our students. One of the things that we want to make very clear to the commission, that we made clear to our board, if we lose a child to homeschool or some other kind of option, that's about $8,000 per child. If we lost 100 children to homeschool, that would be $800,000. So we are trying to keep every student that we have for 2 reasons. First of all, is educational purposes. We still think we can do the best job about educating children. We think a lot of times when parents do homeschooling, sometimes it goes extremely well, sometimes it does not go extremely well. So we want to keep those students engaged with our teachers. The other part is that we want those particular students to remain on our rolls, because if not, if parents get frustrated with it later on in November or December and send them, we will miss some of the ADM counts, so we miss the money from the state, but we still have to educate that particular child. So I know that a lot of folks would want to just look at the increases this year, and I know you've probably been following this. We started out about 6 months ago. The governor and the state promised a 4% raise for our teachers. 2 months ago, it dropped down to 2%, and then 3 or 4 weeks ago, it dropped down to, we're not giving you anything. So we've got a BP increase about $458,000, so a little under $500,000. If you look at the main, now we've got all of the expenditures listed on that summary page for you, but the significant expenditures. Our step increase cost us about $650,000. Our degree advancements, that was close to $300,000. The health insurance was almost $100,000. We had to hire a couple more teachers simply because our special ed numbers went up. We had a certain group of teachers or a certain influx of students in some of our schools that we went over the state required number that we have to hire a couple teachers. And we just averaged that. So that was $67,000 a teacher. Now that's not salary. That's salary and benefits, which is 30% on top of the salary. And then textbook adoption, this was a tough year for us because we had to do language arts adoption, so about $352,000 for that. So if you add those totals up, we had about $1.6 million of additional expenses with $458,000 from the state to cover that particular amount. So now you will see when you go through the actual line item pieces that we had to take $10,000 out, $20,000 out of different line items to come up with a balanced budget that we are presenting to here this evening. So I hope what the commission will understand and can kind of appreciate. We understood you're in a tough spot. We're coming to you asking for level funding, not helping to make up the additional $1.1 million. We just want to try to get what we had last year. Now we know a question that some folks may have is that you did get federal money this year, and we did. We got the CARES Act funding that's about $2.3 million. That, as I'm sure you realize, came with a lot of restrictions. That is not intended for operational costs. It was one-time money, so you can never use one-time money for reoccurring costs. So you can't put that into salary increases or anything of that nature, because next year, when it dries up, then you've got to come up with that money and you're even more in a hole than you were from the beginning. So it was also came to us with the recommendation and sometimes even restriction. It couldn't be operational costs, so you couldn't buy, particular things with it that was in the normal budget. They really want us to look at online education because they knew that would probably happen in a lot of states. They also want us to remediate students from last year that missed 3 months of instruction. And then they also wanted us to prepare staff and parents for this online instruction that would happen. So if you look over to the right, that's the amounts. We used about $1.5 million of this to purchase computers for students at home. So that enabled us to purchase about 2,200 computers. We actually, since this time, we're reshifting some money and looking at even purchasing another 500 students, because you'll see later on the number of students that we have got for the online option is increasing. Also, we did summer remediation and tutoring. 2 weeks ago, we brought about 130 students in to do summer school. So we've been at summer school for several weeks now. We have about 130 students that we brought in to do summer school. So we've got some remediation in there for those particular students. The other part that we put in there is number 3, professional development to help staff with online instruction. I know this may not necessarily mean a lot to the commission, but we're going to a Google platform to where we'll use Google Classrooms and Google Chat to provide that online instruction. Some of our teachers could go in there tomorrow and be perfectly fine. Some of our teachers would struggle with that particular platform. And so what we're doing is that we're requiring all of our teachers to become certified in this and to be able to operate this over the summer. So we're offering staff development activities for our teachers. We're also paying at least 4 to 5 teachers in each school to be certified Google trainers. And so what would happen if a teacher had a problem at Fairview Marguerite, that individual would have 4 or 5 teachers right there in their school to help them with this online opportunity so we don't get overwhelmed with the surge of questions that will happen. We also realize that even if we provide quality online instruction and they got the laptops to do it, parents may not have the ability to do that. As I've spoke here many times, about half of our students are living with a non-biological parent. Many of those are living with a grandparent. And although age does not equate 100% with effective use of technology, there is a correlation. And so the older we tend to be, the little bit more difficult it is. And so anybody that's going on online instruction we're requiring those parents to come in to do a training with us. So we've got 4 dates set up in July, starting July the 7th. We'll actually have parents come in and we will train them how to log in, how to access the lessons, how to assist your child in making sure that they are successful online. Now, at the same time, we're also taking the kids in another room and teaching them the same thing. So if there's a breakdown with the parents, the kids a lot of times are able to more effectively access that online piece. So we've got some opportunities there for parents to come in. Then also we've got to provide some special education services. A lot of our kids miss OT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, a lot of those kind of things. We still owe those kids some of those services, so we still got to back up and provide that particular service for that particular kid to be in compliance with individualized educational plans. Then we also, because it is federal money, we had to give a share of that to private schools. So within our area, so we had to give away about $30,000 of that to the private schools in our community. So about $2.3 million. So as you can see, the money that we got for the CARES Act is all going into some of these things to kind of get the online operational pieces ready.
Dr. Perry?
Yes, sir.
Those computers, those computers, 1.5 million, how many are being returned like they're supposed to at the end of the year?
Well, what we do is we get the vast majority of them at high school level, the same computers we use at high school level, so we deploy about 3,000 each year. And so with that, we get the vast majority of them back. Now that's high school students. Sometimes they can be more responsible, sometimes they can be less responsible than middle school kids or elementary school kids, but we get the vast majority of them back. Now, they have to pay a $50 fee to get those computers. We do have a waiver for those individuals who are struggling financially. But that covers some of the cost of the small repairs. Situations where we would have a busted screen or something of that nature, we do have some insurance on them. But in some cases, as you get a little bit older.
Because I remember we bought these computers, I guess it's been longer than I thought, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. And how often do you want to update these, get new computers?
Well, what we do is that the seniors get to take theirs home at the end of 4 years. So at the end of 4 years, they take those out and we recycle another quarter of those 3,000. Because the 4 years is about the lifespan on a laptop.
Right. So you're saying every guesstimated 3 years, we're going to spend $1.5 million on computers?
No, because then again, think about this 1.5 million. This is to help kids through the online version of this. So this is just to get kids. We're hoping things could get better. We could even go back second semester and there wouldn't be a need for this. But right now what we're trying to do is provide a one-to-one device for every single family in Hamlin County. So when this is over with and we can go back to school as normal, these computers will actually transition back into the school as laptops to be used in the schools, because we do not have, and I think this is what you're getting at, we don't have a sustainable plan to keep repeating all these computers for every single kid. So this is just to get us through this online part, and then we will convert these computers to replace some of our older ones that we would have in school right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
At some point during the sophomore or junior in high school, and he loses his laptop or it gets completely damaged or whatever, what does that student do then?
With that particular piece, they do sign a written agreement that if this computer is lost or broken due to your negligence, then you've got to replace the particular laptop. Some of them, if it is a computer error, that something just messes up internally with the machine, we do have insurance on that for a year or so, the general warranty of it. So we do have some, if it's a computer malfunction, we've got insurance. If it's a student, then student is responsible for that particular damage. And depending on the damage, it's a whole computer prorated out if it's an older computer. But
Right.
you know, we give out 3,000 of these, and you would think we would have an enormous amount of trouble, but we have a help desk set up at each one of the high schools. So if you've got small things, you bring in that laptop at the help desk, and we actually have some students helping us with that on some situations on a minor thing. We get them repaired pretty quickly, and we don't. Our students have actually been pretty responsible with those. So we've been fortunate. Now we'll see how it works for middle school kids and elementary school kids, but so far it's worked out well. On the additional budget notes, what you will see when you look at our capital projects, we only have a small amount of money designated toward capital. It's less than $500,000. We will have to add more money to the capital improvement or to the capital program later down the road. What we wanted to do right now is let's see how many kids we get enrolled in August, in July. Let's see what happens with everything with the county, with the city, with the state revenue, all those kind of things. Then we'll come back and visit. But we didn't want to list all these capital projects that we were going to do and then realize that we needed to draw something from the general reserve to pay for some of those and be in a bad spot. So we know we're going to have to revisit this. Currently, we do have buses in the budget. The buses are in the budget to replace the ones that we are retiring. So, Tracy, we've got 6 buses in the budget right now to retire the 6 buses that are over the 18 years with 200,000 miles. So we replaced those. But the other big projects, we've got some money in there right now for emergency pieces, but the rest of it we're waiting. We just thought it was a more prudent piece at that time to wait and see. If it's emergency, we're going to put it in and take care of it, but we will revisit that later. We're also a little bit worried about student enrollment concerns. We've been somewhat heartened by the fact that a lot of our kids don't seem like they're taking a non-school approach to this. They're still going to go to school either on-site or online. We were very concerned about that if we lost a lot of students to some of the non-school options, that would have a tremendous financial resource problem for us. And the problem we would get, if we lost 5 students from 3rd grade from Russellville Elementary School, you know, that would be $40,000, but I'd still have to keep 3 teachers in there because those kids didn't reduce enough down, so I would lose revenue, but my operational costs would have been the same. So, but we are still concerned. It's not July yet, July 31st, and so we do have some concerns about that. There's also some online instructional costs that we've tried to build into the budget, but since nobody has ever done this before on the scale that we're talking about, we have some concerns. We think we've got a lot of issues worked out. We've been working feverishly over the last couple of weeks to do this, and then also we've got staffing challenges. We've got a couple people, you know, they've had cancer, they've got heart surgery, they're pregnant with complications, they've got a person that they're watching at home that has medical conditions, and how do we balance all those people in terms of taking care of our staff members but still making sure that we have enough people to teach. So we're giving a couple options to our staff members. First of all, if you just want to take a leave of absence for a semester or a year without pay, we'll just let you do that if you can afford to do that. We'll also look that we'll need some people to teach online. We'll try to do that. And then we'll entertain a couple more options. But basically, we need folks teaching in our classrooms because we want to get our numbers down to 15 in each classroom. And to do that, we need all hands on deck. So we're going to be as conscientious, as compassionate, as sympathetic as we could be. And my only greater loyalty to my staff members is to my kids. And so we've got to make sure that we take care of kids. So we just wanted the commission to know that because of the capital and because of a lot of unseen things, we will have to shift some money around to different pots later, but we're going to make it on whatever budget we have. We're not going to come back and ask for additional money. Budget request, as we said, we know you got many legitimate requests. I know the sheriff's office, they need a lot of money. We know that public response, we know that public health needs a ton of things. So we know everybody that comes before you has many requests, and we're not the last in the line. But we do feel like we do build the economic capacity of this community. We're working real hard with the career and technical programs. We had over 120 interns this year going out into our community, working with various industries about producing the very kind of workers that they need to fuel our industries. We are trying to create that quality of life. We want people to know that Hamilton is a good place to live. And part of that is having a good school system. You know that our costs are going to be high this year. Everything that we do is increased because of the virus. As we mentioned a couple of times, we educate 10,500 kids every day. That's a sixth of our population. So while we do ask for a big portion of the budget, I think we're responding to a huge portion. And we're only going to request level funding this year. And I think, and I hope the commission can appreciate that, because I know sometimes folks come asking for more money. We understand. We said this last year. When things were good, we wanted to kind of enjoy some of that prosperity. When things were bad, we understand that things are bad, and we need to curb our expectations. So right now, we did want to just mention, though, that we do think the school district is a community asset. I don't think that we just simply sit here and take without putting back into the well. And just so that the commission would know, over the summer, we prepared over 260,000 meals to give out to families in this community. So since March through July, we gave 260,000 meals, so 250,000 meals out to our families. I think that's pretty significant. We traveled over 3,000 miles to take meals to those who were shut in, who could not get out. And I went on some of those routes. You would think that some individuals, and there were some that were taking advantage of it, there's no doubt. Now, as we went to some, and bless their hearts, if we had not been there, if Food on Foot and some of these other programs hadn't been there, we would have had some people in serious trouble. We had some people that had literally barricaded themselves in the house, and they were not getting out. They were not going to Walmart. They were not going to the grocery store. They were scared to death. And these meals and some of the transportation we did, I think, made a difference. We also want you to know that, for those first several weeks, we provided free daycare for all essential workers. So if you were a police officer, if you were a first responder, if you were a hospital worker, any of those people, we said just bring a kid in, we're going to take care of them for free. We estimated that today it's close to, we put in over $100,000 on that. So out of our extended school program, we paid over $100,000 to provide free daycare for our folks who were in need and really helped out our community. We also maintained online instruction. Not all of it was perfect, because we had to do online instruction in about 2 weeks and get everything ready. So it was not perfect, but we did provide that. We provided over 500,000 packets that we sent out for people to use and to work with, the pages to work with. And then we did do the daily and weekly broadcast. Mayor Britton and I were kind of the co-spokesman for the county at that time, and we used school staff and equipment to do that. Those guys came in every single day and taped for the first couple of days. I think that helped keep our community informed. It helped to alleviate some of the fear and direct people to where they needed to go. So I think one of the things that we just wanted to mention is I think we do try to give back. I don't think we just simply take. I think that we do put back in the well. Mr. Chair, we would go now into some of the reopening plans, but before we left the budget, do we have any questions there on the budget? Yes, sir.
I know lunch is going to be different. How will that impact the budget? Is it going to cost more to do it that way, or less, or?
Well, the good thing about the food service program is that it's a self-sufficient program. So normally we have been able to pay for all school lunch, all the employee costs, all the food costs, all the equipment costs. That's all been paid out of money we generated, and we have a pretty healthy fund balance. So we are concerned that a number of kids may not eat this year, and certainly those online may or may not come. Now we're going to prepare a prepackaged meal like we did in the summer. So even if you are home, if you're on free and reduced lunch, you can still come by the school, we'll give you a meal. We can get reimbursed for that. So what we're hoping is that we will be able to at least maintain an even balance with that. But it is going to be a challenge. Because even though I know you hear a lot of horror stories about school meals and how horrible they are, if you actually go in and eat, it's actually, we do a pretty good job at it. Jennifer Buchanan and her staff do an excellent job, and they have stuff very attractive. If you've ever been over at East, you know, where we have the larger cafeteria, it's very attractive, it's very appealing, and I think that encourages kids to eat. When we have to prepackage it and say, here is your, in a styrofoam container, that won't be as appealing. But we do have 65% of our kids on free and reduced lunch, so a lot of them, that's the only meal they're going to get, and so they won't take it regardless if it's in a styrofoam container and a golden plate. So they'll take it regardless. But that is a concern that we have. Yes, sir.
You know, a lot of factories have shut down and they've laid their people off. What happens with our school people when, like in April, they're down in April and May and June? What happens to them? Do they draw unemployment or?
Now, what we did this year to receive that $2.3 million, I'm sure you're aware of this, to receive the CARES Act, we had to pay every employee. So to receive the money, we had to pay everybody, and I'm certain that the county probably had to do something similar, that almost everybody had to pay. So for our teachers last year, we did pay everybody, but keep in mind now, the high school folks were using Schoology, which is an online program. They were teaching every day. So everybody in high school was teaching every day. And then at the middle school and the elementary level, our expectation was that you were checking in with your students. And now it was a little bit different because we only had about, by the time we got things going, we only had about 30 days left. And it was hard for the elementary, but we did have people working during that entire time. Now, you and I both know there were some people working 12 hours a day, and there were some people not so much. But this year, when we go online, everybody's going to have a responsibility, and everybody, where we got the on-site part, they will also be fully engaged. So everybody this year has got to do something, but we've also told our staff that we're at a point that we cannot simply pay people as we did last year if you're not working. We got to have people working in some manner. Now that can be online, or it can be in some other capacity, but we do need folks working this year.
Well, they set up on like a 100-day program.
Yes, sir. They actually, our teachers have a 200-day contract, so 180 days of that is directly with students, and then another 10 days are driven by the district, and then another 10 days are optional days that they can get by taking up tickets at a football game or working after school doing something different. So each year they have to fulfill that 200-day
So they're locked
contract.
in on that 200.
Yes, sir. There's a 200-day contract that they are required to do. Now, principals have a different, you know, I'm on a different contract. I'm on 12 months, so I've got to work, 200, or whatever it is. I wish it was only 260 days, but it is different. But yes, teachers have to fulfill that at the end of each year. They actually fill out a form, and the principal signs off saying that they fulfilled those 200 days.
I got one more question.
Yes, sir.
On the kids that's taking their lessons home and doing it on computer,
Yes, sir.
I've seen where in Morristown, you've got FiberNet, you've got Charter, but you get out in our rural areas till here recently, since Holston Connect hooked up. I've got a neighbor that had to go out and rent his service.
Yep.
And it cost him $145, nearly $150 a month for his daughter, who is a senior in high school, to be able to do her homework.
Now, I'm going to address that particular issue in a reopening plan, or I'm going to address it now, but I'll lead up to that because you're exactly right. That is a concern. So out in Pottsburg area, and well, actually in a lot of our rural areas, Russellville area and some other places, we're pretty fortunate. But we are very cognizant of that, and we've got a plan. Not a perfect plan, but we've got a plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Chair, are we, okay? What we did is we did a survey. Now, the number, we asked parents specific questions. As of last night, we had about 4,700 parents respond to that. So we've got 10,000 students. If you think that a lot of these parents have 1 or 2 kids, one of our parents, actually several parents, had more than 7 kids, which kind of surprised me. But so with 4,764 responses, that's actually, I think, the vast majority of our parents have actually got on there and looked. So here you can see is that the number of students that we had, they've got 1 student in 1,700, 2 students 1,200, 3 students 415, 4 or more, 147. So as you can kind of look through this, you can see that the vast majority of our parents, almost half of them, have about 1 kid. About 35% have 2 kids. 12% have more than 3, and so you can just kind of see the numbers, and it's in your book there. Then we start asking them, what are you going to do next year? Are you going to come to school? About 50% said I'm coming on site. So 50% of our parents said I'm coming back to school just like normal. About 14% said I'm coming online. Now I will tell you that since I produced this, because we actually asked them to register before July 1 so we could start planning, this number is almost doubled. So now it's almost at 1,000. We anticipated that we would have at least 10% of our kids taking the online option, so this has jumped now to 1,000. And I think some of that is reflected in the number of cases that we've had in Hamlin County, going up now to 220 cases. That's kind of impacted some people. About 35% were undecided. About 2% said they're going to look at some other options other than public school. Now, some of these people were not going to public school to begin with, so we wasn't able to really tease that particular piece out. Then, Mr. Neeson, this is coming part to your question that you have. We asked them, do you have a computer at home which can be used for schoolwork? About 65% of the folks said, yeah, I've got a computer that can be used for schoolwork. Now, we gave them the specifications. If you can download a YouTube video, if you can download a movie, your computer's strong enough. If you can't, then you probably, and so 65% said I do, 35% said I don't have a computer. Then we asked them, do you have reliable internet? Now, about 92% of the people said I do have reliable internet, but most of the people who did this did it online. So if you did it online, you probably do have reliable internet, even though we did print out paper copies. And we handed out several paper copies for people to fill out, and we added those to our particular survey. So about 4% said they don't have it at all. Another 4% said, I do have it, but I can't afford it. When we did the online part at the very end of school, some of our principals actually called parents and said, okay, we're sending this online, can you access it? In a lot of our poverty areas that we had at Lincoln Heights, at Hillcrest, at Fairview, some of those places, at least 40 to 50% of our kids didn't have internet access. So I don't think this is truly reflective of our entire community, because I think people who didn't have online may not have been able to gain as easy access as some of those that did. Now, school lunch, about 36%, I'm going to pack my meals from home, and then 64% said I'm still going to eat at school. So over half of our kids said I'm still going to eat at school. About 61 said did not ride last year, will not ride this year. So about 60% of our kids, over half of them said didn't ride last year, not going to ride this year. About 30% said I rode the bus and will ride the bus again. It was kind of surprising, 2% said I did ride last year, but I'm going to ride this year. And then about 10% said I rode the bus last year, but will not ride this year. So you can see we're trying to kind of determine what our bus routes are going to look like and how crowded those are going to be. One of the biggest questions that we had from everybody is wearing a mask. Are you going to require a mask? Almost every phone call that we got from school, parents called and said, I won't send my child if you require wearing a mask. We didn't get a single call that said, I'm not going to send my kid unless you do wear a mask. Now that was last week, we may have got some additional calls later, but when I talked to the ladies answering the phone. Last week, we had about 50 phone calls. All 50 of those said, not coming unless you don't require a mask. So in this, what we have is not concerned about wearing a mask, and a mask will not determine. So that was about 81%, or about 71% of, no, 81% of our folks said it doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to wear a mask. Only 19% said I need you to wear a mask. Okay, so that was survey a reopening plan. We do plan to reopen July 31st. We are speaking weekly with the task force to continue to look at numbers. We're talking with medical providers. We actually just finished up with a meeting today about 4:30, talking with everybody that's involved in the leadership option about, is it safe to open up schools? Is this the right thing to do? We're not making this decision in a vacuum. We're getting some of the major players together and making sure that we are doing what is responsible. And we do understand that opening up school is a risk, cost, benefit. What are the risks? What are the costs of not opening? What are the benefits? And so, and you guys know this yourself. A lot of you are in the industry right now. You've been in the industry. Every time you do something, there's a risk. Every time you fail to do something, there's a risk. And so we're looking about what's it going to cost us to do this. Right now, there was a study I looked at today, and it was projecting that the 4 months of lost instruction that people had was going to cost the United States billions of dollars. That kids lost that instruction. We got to remediate them somehow. Kids have dropped out, different kind of things. So in terms of the CTE that they lost, certifications, licensures, some of those kind of things, there's going to be a huge bill to pay because kids were not in school. So coming to school has a risk. Coming to school has a cost. Staying at home has a cost also. We're not going to require a face mask. We are going to recommend it. We're going to ask kids to consider wearing it. We're still having conversations about would we require it if you're on a bus. Because if you're on a bus, you're in a real confined area, and would it make sense to do it on a bus? But face masks will be recommended but not required. Transportation, we are going to run our routes the same way that we did last year. Now we hope that some kids that are going online won't be on the buses, so our numbers won't be as crowded. But we actually looked about buying additional buses, and our budget said, really no way. We looked about running multiple routes, so have a bus driver pick up a quarter of the students and go back and pick up a quarter of the students. We'd just be transporting kids all day. Couldn't have breakfast, couldn't have lunch. The instructional process would just been disrupted. So our option was we're going to provide transportation. If you feel safe putting your child on a bus, put them on a bus. Now we will have an individual on the bus taking the temperature. So if you have 100 degrees, now what we're going to do, we can't expect the bus driver to do that because the bus driver's got to maintain visual control of everything. But we do think we would have an older student on the bus that we could train to take a temperature, as we're going to be using the no-touch thermometers. And so if a kid has a 100-degree temperature, if they're a high school student, middle school student, we're just going to send them back to the house. If it's an elementary school student, we've got to make sure that we see the parent there and make sure that the parent acknowledges that we're sending the kid back home. If the parent's not there, the bus driver's going to call the school and say, I've got Johnny, bringing him to school, need to call his parents, he's got a fever. So we'll isolate them on the bus as much as we possibly can. When they get to school, we'll isolate them at school until mom or dad comes and picks them up. We're also encouraging parents to buy a thermometer. Take your child's temperature before you put them on the bus. It's going to be a hassle to you. It's going to be a hassle to us if you send a kid to school. Those of you involved in the school system, it may not be a surprise to you, but it's countless the number of kids that we got every day. Mom sent me to school. They knew I was sick. They said to go to the school nurse to see if I got strep throat, see if I got a sinus infection, see if I got a temperature. We're trying to get parents out of that particular habit because what happens, most those parents, it's not that they don't care about their kids. They have expended every day that they got from working at Walmart, from working at the plant. They can't lose their job, and so they're sending their kid to school hoping that they don't have to miss that day so that they can go to work and then keep the lights turned on. So we understand some of this is not due to sorry parenting. It's just, a lot of our parents are in a tough spot when it comes to missing work. Cleaning wise, everybody's gonna be a cleaner this year. Everybody's gonna be a custodian. There are custodians who come in and do the deep clean, but every kid, unless you got an allergy to some of the disinfectants, but everybody then has got to be involved in cleaning. So every day is gonna be a situation that we constantly clean. Now, one of the good things that we found out about COVID is that it doesn't last as long as we thought it lasted. It has a shorter life period than what we thought before, but we're gonna hammer those common use, like a door handle, keep some doors open so you don't have to constantly open them with your hand, but light switches, some other things, we will constantly clean those things. We actually have also brought the sprayers. That's the backpack kind that you can come and fill up and spray out the buses to kind of disinfect those. School meals, we can't eat school meals in our cafeteria, so we're going to have to divide that up. We're saying that we can put about a third of the kids in the cafeteria and spread them out. The rest of the kids are going to have to go to the classrooms, going to have to go to the hallways, going to have to go outside, go out different places. And we've left each building up with the responsibility of determining where that's going to be. Because we don't want any more than 50 people together in a small group, and we'll try to spread that out. Speaking of that, large groups, we're going to try to keep kids separated as much as possible. Elementary school will be easier. Middle school will be a little harder. High school, it's hard. Because when first block ends, it's hard because everybody's going to the same classrooms, and so it's going to be hard to dismiss in waves at the high school level, even though maybe able to let freshmen out, let them go to class, and then let the rest of them out. But we're trying to do simple things like separate lockers so that kids are not shoulder to shoulder when they go to their lockers, and some things of that nature. We will take the temperature of every kid that drives to school or dropped off to school. We've already got the kids on the buses. We ordered 220 some thermometers, and with that, we'll train people to take temperatures, and if you've got a temperature at high school, middle school level, we'll just send you back home. We know at certain times kids may be hoping for a temperature and rubbing their foreheads to get that temperature up, but it will be a deal there that we will take the temperature. Visitors, we will limit those. Transitions, try to keep people from moving around the building as much as possible. Guys, that's going to be difficult, but what we're going to try to do is try to keep this group of kids isolated to this group of kids as much as possible, so that one kid in this group don't go to another group and infect that group. So if we have a kid, with the COVID, then it maybe could only impact that one class. So before we would have a lot of kids spreading around, we'll try to limit that as much as possible. Now, high school, it's virtually impossible because they just simply go around, but we'll do what we can to limit those transitions. We're trying to target 15 kids per classroom. So what we do now is librarians, art teachers, PE teachers, everybody becomes a classroom teacher. We kind of divide those groups up a little bit so that the classroom teacher can do the hardcore instruction with 15. Then those 15 may go with the PE teacher to do some guided practice, and the rest of the 15 come back in and we do the hardcore instruction with. School closures, this year it's going to be a little bit different. We could actually close a classroom. So at Russellville Elementary School, if we have, Miss Johnson's classroom that has a case, we may just close that classroom down and send those kids home for 10 days. It could be we just close down Russellville Elementary School because during the flu, we had some as high as 40-50% absentee, and some schools had nobody out for the flu. So we see pockets of that happen. Now what we got to be conscientious about, and we'll be understanding about this, if we close the elementary school and send Mary home, but Johnny, who's a high school kid, is the one watching her when mom and dad's at school, we got to do something to kind of help Johnny go home and do online. But when these kids leave school, because we close school, they immediately go into the online piece. So as soon as they're out, they switch them from online so the instructional process continues. Now, it won't be that smooth, but that's our thought, that as soon as we get kids out, we start creating a process that they're online. Because they're going to be out for 10 days. And 10 days, you know, is an extended period of time when you're talking about a school day. That's the 18th of the school year. So it's some time. Athletics, we are doing summer conditioning, we're doing practicing. We've had a middle school volleyball kid that had it, and we canceled volleyball practice for all those kids for 2 weeks and sent everybody home. We did have another situation, we had a parent of a student that had it, and we felt, since we were close to the dead period anyway, we just canceled practice for that particular group. Athletics, we're waiting for some guidance from TSSAA on some of that. I think we did receive some guidance. I believe, I just saw it as it came over here. I think the first game, our first athletic contest, maybe August 29th or something. So we'll have to get further clarification on that. That's going to be an extreme challenge for us. Our first ball game, as you guys probably know, is the East-West ball game. That is packed. We make the majority of our money on that first ball game. We can't fill up the stadium like that this year. We understand that. That would put a lot of people at risk, and so we're going to have to do something different there. But we've not come up with a plan with that yet. We're going to wait for some guidance and go from there. Water fountains, telling kids not to use water fountains, bring in bottles, and we'll fill the bottles up, and then they can drink out of the bottles. If you've not been in elementary school, elementary school kids often don't wait for the water to come to them. They would put their mouth right on the fountain and just take the water straight out of the spigot kind of piece. And so if we can get them to take their mouths off of that, then we can end up filling up water bottles and help them with that. We will be opening in front if we get a case. We're not going to name the kid, of course, but we will tell parents today we had a positive case in 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary School. And then parents can make the decision. If we close the school down, you know, everybody's online, but if we don't close the school down, my kids in 4th grade are not feeling really comfortable about this, I'm going to take them out. So, you know, we will be opening in front with everybody. We've got this case, you make a decision. Had a positive case today on bus 81, whatever the case may be. Your kids can make the decision to ride the bus again tomorrow, or you can bring them, whatever that you want to do. Staff options. We are also telling kids you can do online or you can do on-site. So you've got the option of going online or going to the actual school. There's going to be a certain limited number of cases where we may let a kid take the online option but then come in for welding. You know, we got them a little bit more spread out, so it'll be hard for us to duplicate welding, something of that nature. So there may be cases where we might let a dual platform kind of exist. You can go to online anytime that you want to. So if we have cases begin to build up in school, at any time I'm going to school at West High School, I decide that I want to go online, you go online. If, however, you're going online, you can't come back to school until the end of the grading period. That will just eliminate that this week is hunting season, I'm going to go online during this week, and then homecoming's the following week, so I'm going to come back to school at that point in time. So you can end at the grading period and transition back in. Staff options. Now, keep in mind also that if you're online or on-site, that's the same thing as being in school in terms of ADM. And ADM is what we live on in terms of financial pieces. So if a kid is doing the coursework at home, then we've got that particular part. Now, another part that we talked about with the online, we actually bought 500 hotspots. And what the hotspots are, they're a device that actually are controlled much like our phones. So you can bring that in, and we've got it at our house in Whitesburg. That hotspot just receives a signal from Verizon, and then it powers our laptops for internet access. So we've got 500 of those that we are actually lend out to parents to help. We have actually increased our Wi-Fi in our store. We're in the process of doing it. So if you pull up to West High School, we will have Wi-Fi in the parking lot. So if you do have transportation, not everybody does, but if you do have transportation, you can pull up in front of East Ridge Middle School, and you can download your lessons, and then you can go back home and work on them at home, but you can come to school and download them. We're looking at the possibility, can we load up a bus or some other mobile vehicle, put a mobile hotspot on it, go into some of our housing projects, and tell everybody from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it's going to be on, get your lessons downloaded, and then go ahead and work on your lessons at that particular time. So we're trying to eliminate the problem of that I don't have internet access. If none of those options work, we do have paper copies for you to take. And then if that doesn't work, the other option that we got, even though it's very, very time consuming, we could download everything to a jump drive, then you take home, download that lesson for a jump drive, but you gotta do it every day. And then we gotta do it every day. So, staff options, we are trying to be very conscientious of staff members. The vast majority of our people are highly dedicated. Guys, if you could have seen them all summer long, they're not getting paid right now. I came from one, there are about 10 of them together working to try to get some of our Hispanic families that were having trouble registering online because of the language barrier. They were working, not getting paid. They were working, trying to get access to these kids and help them. We got good people all the time, and so we're trying to take care of our folks and trying to give them a lot of options, because some of our folks have some pretty serious health conditions. We are going to issue our school-issued computers. We do think that we would have enough computers to give to every family in the district, and so that way everybody will have access regardless of income level about having a computer. Now, we do understand, if you're one of these parents that's got 5 kids and you've got one computer, you know, having those kids get on and have enough time to use the computer all during the day, it's going to be a challenge, but we'll do what we can. You know, if one of those kids is a high school kid, they've already got one computer, plus we'll issue another one because they already have theirs. We are doing staff and parent training. As I mentioned before, we're training all of our staff members to use Google. We're actually training 4 or 5 of our teachers in every school to be trainers. We're also training our parents beginning on July 7th. And what we're doing is we're doing that parent training in every single school. So all of our schools, we're providing that training. So a parent, we think, is more likely to go to Hillcrest Elementary School if they know the Hillcrest staff. They wouldn't come maybe if we're doing this at the central office or some other place. So we're trying to put it in their home community, and they'd be more willing to go. We're also doing it in the morning, and we're doing it at lunch, so that if you work evening shift, you can still come in and do it. If something happens that you're working, you maybe can get off during lunch, but we're also doing it in the evening, so that if you're working during the day, you've got time to come and do it in the evening. We have put a sample lesson online and said, and sent a message out to our parents. This is what you're going to need to get to be able to do instruction. Get on right now, see if you can get to it. If you can't get to it, let us know, because we need to bring you up to speed about how to get there. Because we don't want 10,000 phone calls on July the 31st. We're actually starting to answer those phone calls right now. Get on, see what it is, and let us work out your problems. And then, of course, with the translations, we are actively working on translating all this into Spanish so that folks would have it there. Any questions about the reopening plan? Should be simple. Nothing major, nothing hard with that. Any questions?
Dr. Perry, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
I've been hearing this from some folks, and we get the idea, and I understand you have a large task in front of you with all the moving parts. This is huge.
It is.
The online scares a lot of people because of falling behind.
Yeah,
And I understand this year there's no free pass.
right.
And I just wonder about accountability. I mean, are we going to really learn a lot? And I get it. I know kids are more adapted to doing this today. you're the professional, not even daring trying to second guess what you're doing. What do you think?
There is no doubt that in-class instruction is the most effective way to teach. There is no doubt. I think the lower you go, at high school level, I think we could actually pull off online instruction fairly easy because kids could be self-motivated, they could understand, they could be self-directed. We do this all the time. We have a ton of our kids at East and West that are doing dual enrollment online. They've been doing it forever. So I think a lot of that will be easy. I think everybody in here understands us trying to teach a kindergartner to read online, you know, that is just going to be virtually impossible. And we've told our parents that. K1 and 2, guys, we're going to provide some online instruction because we think at least we could be better than you doing nothing. But we will have accountability, so you've got to actually log on. And it's not a piece that you can log on and then us not see you. In the situation that we've got planned out right now, is that when I come on in the morning at 8 o'clock, I will see all 30 students or all 15 students. And I got to see you all class period long, so you can't just put it on and then go do whatever and then come back. We also have online assessments. So after each lesson there'll be an assessment, or after a certain number of lessons there'll be assessment. But you're right.
Is there not a possibility, this is an thought, of a remote location? These folks that are concerned about sending their kids to school have come up with some plan where they can come once a week remotely, 10 in a group.
We have talked about that, and I think that is an option that we would look at the possibility, because we have talked about that, especially with kindergarten, first grade. Could it be a possibility for those parents who are scared? Would you come in if we said we're going to have 5 in a group? Would you come in if we had 10 in a group? Some of the people that we've talked to about that, because we have kind of tested that water out, some of them would say, yeah, I'll consider that, but the vast majority right now have said, I've got cancer myself, I've got a real serious immune deficiency disease. We've not been out of this house in the last 6 months. I don't even let my kid go outside and play. So there would be some of those cases, but we are concerned that if we have to continue doing this all year long, there's no doubt there will be a loss of instructional piece, especially in our lower grades. So,
Huge year, now.
well, it is a huge, and I think, but at least, because guys, we know this. We've got on some of our parents for attendance. And every day that we have court over here, and we take a parent to court for not bringing their kid to school, we get 4 or 5 homeschooling permission forms. They get tired of being taken to court, so then they come over, they go straight over, they leave straight from court, they come over to central office, they pick up the homeschooling option. I'm homeschooling my kid. The state of Tennessee is very relaxed in what required of homeschooling. Those kids homeschooled. And then if they couldn't get them to come to school, that they're not going to do a lot. So we think at least if we've got the option of making them get up in the morning and at least getting online, we got a chance.
Dr. Perry, you were saying that like West High would have Wi-Fi where you come pick up your lesson plan. But now you're saying that these kids have to be online at the same time the teacher does. So
We've got 2 situations. We've got synchronous, so that during that particular time, I'm actually engaging with the teacher. So I'm going to talk to you about the causes of the American Civil War, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think is the biggest cause? But now what we do realize is that we may have a family with 4 kids. All 4 of them can't get on at the same time, and so we archive every lesson. So when I give that lesson on the American Civil War, you've got to log in if you're in one of those situations that you're the 3rd user of the computer. You gotta log in, now that way, I don't know. You log in and you just let me teach, and then you go do, we don't have a way of really checking that until we do the assessments. But we will have some situations where kids will have to do the archive, because they don't have strong enough internet connection, they don't have enough computers to all do it simultaneously.
Or they have the internet connection at their parents', but when they have a positive case and you shut their classroom down for 10 days, the parent still has to work day shift, and so their babysitter doesn't have it. They may have to go to a family member in a different area that doesn't have this.
You guys are beginning to just understand the complexities
Oh, I've been,
of what we are doing with this, because every one of those scenarios, we solve one problem, that creates about 5 more, and then each one of those solutions causes about 5 more, so we do understand that, and we're gonna try to be as understanding as we can, but we've gotta hold kids responsible somehow, and we're coming up with some options, but it is complicated.
oh, yes.
It
That
is,
was just the things that are thrown out to me at Molly as I go, because Molly has a very strict attendance policy.
yeah,
The 10 days, if a parent had to miss 10 working days, no matter for this or whatever, they're terminated. They have no job. And, you know, it's a sad way of looking at it, but if Molly doesn't produce a product in their eyes, they can't sell it, so they can't pay a wage.
and you know, the one thing that we are attempting to do, and guys, I will never let any factor, financial, political, social, non-benefit, impact my decision to keep students safe. That's always our first thing, but at the same point in time, if you guys are not working, you're not paying taxes. If you're not paying taxes, I can't pay my teachers. If we can't pay our teachers, we don't have teachers to teach. And so, we know and we understand, and this is why we provided free daycare for everybody in this county for the first 2 weeks or so. We had over 100 kids. We took those kids in so you guys could work.
The questions were, can they not do a daytime and an evening where that could be? Have a teacher that's teaching 3rd grade for 3rd grade kids that will be, so kids that can come home with their parent and in the afternoon can log on.
You know, we did discuss that option, because we discussed an option of, what if we extended our school year to go year round? And then took kids every other day. So we took half of them, or, you know, half of them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But then what we found out, what we thought we'd run into, I can't find daycare for Tuesday and Thursday when my kid's gonna be home. I need daycare every single day, daycare school. The other option that we did, well, what if we did it in the evening and did some of that, but our operational costs just skyrocketed. Now, what we could do, and the option, and we've talked to both mayors about this, if there's something needed, and you guys can help us with the extended school program, we will provide somebody to watch those kids, to kind of keep our industries going. And we've done that with the extended school. We've got 100 kids right now in the extended school program that are parents who need to work. So we're willing to do that, but just on the instructional part, it became economically.
So it's not feasible to have a teacher not work day shift, but then work nights and
Well,
teach this.
the problem that we ran into was this, is that if we had all of our kids evened out evenly, so that I could take half of my staff and say, you don't have to come on until this time, it would work. But I would assume the vast majority of our kids would probably like that traditional daytime method. And if I didn't have enough to take that evening, I couldn't, you know, have that person laid off during the day to take it in the evening without compensating somebody in the evening. We can look at it and see, and it's not something that we didn't think about, but now I may be wrong, but I would think the vast majority of our parents would want it during the day. But if that's not the case, we could look at something different.
This is just the questions that were asked me to bring up, because we have the majority of our employees work day shift.
Yeah,
So they will not be able to be with their children if that happens. Or forbid they don't get sick enough that the parents have to take an FMLA or,
Right.
um.
Okay, so I understand a little bit better, I understand your question now. Let me take that back to the leadership team. Now, there's some of our teachers that would love to wake up at the crack of noon and teach from 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock. That could be an option. Let me look at that and see. I just have to work out the numbers to make sure that we had people for the slots that were needed. And could we get that critical mass of kids at any one spot? But what you're talking about may work. So let me take that back to our leadership team and we'll see. Now the other option that we've got, if that's not feasible, if they were, well, they wouldn't want to send their kids to the extended school program during the evening. Some of them may, but not all of them would. So let me look at that option and see if we can do some evening approach. Now, what you can do is that it wouldn't be live, but you could get on in the evening with the archive piece and then watch the kid, doing it during the archive piece. And so then between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock, do the archive part.
That would be great if they could do the archive, but you were saying that you had to be able to see them, the teacher. And if there's not a teacher there, if they got a way to log on where they can go in, do the work, that would be great. It's
Yeah.
just,
They do have that. Now what we will do, and we are going to be extremely flexible but accountable. For those kind of parents, we won't make them do the online live piece. If parents come to us and say, I've got a 5-year-old, God, we're hoping somebody's there with a 5-year-old, but as you'd be surprised how many times we find out that kids don't have parents there with them, but I will look into that and see, but we'll work out, and especially if businesses, if you guys come to me directly and say, I've got 50 people that need this, I can help you, but normally when you come to me with those 50 kids, 5 of them are at Fairview, 5 of them are at Hillcrest, 5 of them, and it's hard for me to put that together, but we could possibly make it work. All right, any other questions about the reopening plan? Now, all this, we end the reopening plan is, we think, because as we go through this and more things happen, everything is going to be different. West High School, things are going well at West High School. Actually, they're going extremely well. We've been pleased with Joseph Construction. They've done a nice job for us. They've delivered on what we need to do. Now, if you were to go out there today, and we're actually going to take our school board members out there on July the 14th for a tour. If any of you want to go on that tour with us, I'd be happy to take you. So show up, West High School, July the 14th, 4 o'clock, we'll take you through. And that's right before our board meeting. And so now if you can't make that particular time because you're working or doing something else, and you just call me, tell me the time that you want to go, I'll take you, or I'll get somebody to take you through this. But right now, if you've not been out there, go out there and look. Actually, just drive by and look. It looks, I think it already looks better. Taking that front entryway down, I think it looks a lot neater, a lot more professional. The main office, you can see the foundation has been poured, so you can see that's the front of the school right there. And so this is going to be the new main office. They're actually going to start laying block soon. The slab's been poured, the electrical rough end's in, the plumbing rough end, starting to lay block. All that's going well. Didn't really run into any problems over there. The kitchen, the foundation has been poured. Right now we're preparing the slab. The west wall has been removed. And I'll kind of show you, even though you can't hardly see, this is OSB board here. So that was the front of the cafeteria looking out into the parking lot, that area there. So we've removed that entire wall, got some temporary structures up. That will be the part then that will be brought on out into the parking lot. But with that, we're preparing the slab, reinforcing the west wall to do that. We did run into a little bit of problem. We knew, and I think the commission, we talked to you guys about this, that kitchen on that west side in that corner was sinking. So we got Ramjack to come in to do that pressure concrete to go underneath it and raise everything up. So we got that fixed. Old bathrooms, we've demolished all of the bathrooms. Now we're finishing up the masonry. We're actually beginning to pour the floors in some of the bathrooms. The pipe lining went perfect. That went extremely well. All that seemed to go without a problem. We've got the plumbing, the rough-in is done in most of the areas. HVAC, the ductwork and pipes are being put in. We're cutting hose for the fresh air right now. We didn't have fresh air intake in the old building. That was before the code for fresh air. That we got to replace 100% of the air every so many minutes now. So we got to cut a hose out for fresh air. We're changing a lot of the old electrical boxes because they had aluminum wire going into them. So we're taking all the aluminum out and bringing copper in. We're pulling new leads into those particular boxes. We are preparing the roof for the unit. So before we set a unit up there, we got to get the roof people up there. They got to build a little encampment there. They also got to prepare everything so that when we put a unit up there, it doesn't leak. The HVAC systems are at the warehouse, so we went ahead and reordered those a long time ago because we anticipated there may be some supply problems with the virus. So we got all of those in. The only issues that we are experiencing right now had a little bit of soil mitigation. When we took some of the soil out over at the office area and at the kitchen area, had some bad soil in that, so we had to take it out, impact it, replace it, which is typical of most areas. That did not exceed the allowance that we had in, because you always create a soil allowance that if you hit rock or if you hit bad dirt. We also reinforced that west corner. We got to do the fresh air returns. Now the restrooms at the gym is our biggest issue that we got right now. We did not put that in as part of the original contract. And if you remember back, what I told you is that we said that we were going to add that, but instead of holding up construction, we went ahead and bid it out, and that was going to be an add-on later. And the reason why we did that is we wanted to get started as soon as kids were out of school in June, and if we had to rebid it, it would have pushed us back into May before we got bids out, and then we would have lost the summer. So we did this as a change order. When we did this as a change order and asked Joseph what it would cost to do that, it was a little higher than what we thought. So we're going to rebid that and see if we get a competitive price. Plus, it's probably not good business practices to do a change order for this amount. It probably needs to be rebid. So just for the audit purposes, for everything else, we'll rebid that, the classroom or those restrooms over at the gym. But I believe that we budgeted about $500,000 for that. We'll rebid it, see what price we get, and then we'll go from there. But still going to happen, still not touched any of that money. That's still designated for those restrooms. We'll still have them. It's just not going to be in this original contract. Now, if Joseph bids on it, and their bid comes in to a little bit more of what we think is in line with square footage cost, then certainly they can get it. But it'll be a sealed bid, and so everybody's got to be competitive.
That was the extension out?
That was the extension out, toward toward the gym and auditorium, out toward the baseball field. For the restrooms, and that would give us an additional set of restrooms, for a gym and auditorium. So that's still going. I just wanted the commission to know, we're going to bid that because we didn't think we got the best bid. That come in a lot higher than what we anticipated, and they didn't have to be extremely competitive at that point because they thought they may have had it, but this is not our first time doing this, and so when we looked at the square footage cost, we just didn't really think that matched up.
Doesn't interfere with the timeline?
Do what?
Doesn't interfere with a lot of time?
No, it won't interfere with the timeline, because actually we're ahead of time, and this was going to be one of the last things that we were going to do anyway. We can do this without impacting a lot of instructional pieces, because this is going to be on the other end of the building where the auditorium gym is, so it's away from our classrooms. All the plumbing stuff is exterior, so we're going to go ahead and rough out for this, because it just makes sense to rough out for all this stuff, but the rest of the stuff we wait on. So, the kitchen floor, we're in a little bit of a, we got ourselves, I won't really say, we actually got ahead, because we were able to start so much earlier. We're actually ahead of where we thought we were going to be. So a couple of weeks ago, we had to make a decision. We could pour the concrete, put a temporary floor down, wait till the start of school, then after that concrete dried, take the temporary floor up after the moisture got out, because we've got to have a certain moisture content before we can put tile down. Or we could just say, we're going to close down the cafeteria until the moisture content gets right, pour the cafeteria floor, then put all the stuff in. It takes us about 2 weeks to take the kitchen equipment in and out. So for us, it was a really easy decision. We're just going to continue work, push on, and then we will satellite food for West High School. Now, that will create some challenges for us. It will create some problems, but the kids still going to have the same option. They can't eat in the cafeteria anyway. It'll still be a prepackaged meal. It's just going to create more problems for our food service people. But it was going to cost us a lot of money and a lot of time to stop the project and let the concrete dry. Now, there is an outside chance. We sealed off the area. We got humidifiers in. We're doing everything that we can to get that content or that moisture level down to where we need it. But if it doesn't work, we're not going to do it until we can do it right. So we will pour that epoxy floor in, that seamless epoxy floor, but we need a certain moisture content to do that. So we're just going to wait on that. So you might hear it a little bit, but actually the reason why that's a problem, we didn't anticipate doing that so early, but while we were going, it's just going to make sense to keep on going. And in that way, we don't think it will last long, but it will be, a little bit of time. So summary, we've actually been pleased with Joseph Construction. They've done a nice job. They're on schedule, actually a little bit ahead of schedule. We are within budget. We don't really see anything that's going to be a problem with the budget. Now, if you were to go over there today and look at that place, you would think, how in the world is this place going to be ready to open up for school in 30 days? I'm pretty comfortable we're going to be okay. I've done this a couple of times. Now, I'm not saying that with an arrogant attitude, because I know Augie Block masons get the virus and they got to be sent home. And then, or the guys pouring the epoxy, that whole crew gets the virus and they have to stay home. That you lose a certain chemical because of supply. Million things can happen, but these guys have been pretty good about staying on a critical path, getting things done. So right now, we don't see any problems with reopening July 31st. Still going to be some work to do, but we think we're good to go. Now, we've not come over here and provided updates because I know you wanted to keep limited people. I know you got a lot of things going on. But you tell me when you want me here, and we will give you updates on this. But right now, everything's going all right. Mr. Chair, I do apologize that was a long presentation, probably longer than what you thought. I do apologize, but at the same point in time, I think if you better understand what we're doing and trying to do, then when people call you, you've got a better answer, and it keeps you informed, and maybe keeps all of us out of trouble. So, may I answer any questions that you have? On behalf of the Board of Education, on behalf of every student and staff member that we got, we do thank you. We know it's tough calls, tough decisions. I can appreciate that, and we wish you the best in that. If I can answer any questions after you have an opportunity to look at our line items in the budget, just let me know. We'll be happy to do that.
Dr. Perry, I want to thank you and your staff for doing all this. I know it's a lot of extra work and stuff like that, and I just want you to thank you for taking care of our kids like that.
Well, thank you. I hope that we're able to do so. And I've told many people I can handle tough decisions. That's all part of the job. This year it's a little bit weightier because you are really impacting people's health. So we take that serious. So, but Mr. Chair, members, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Brennan? I'm used to taking these on and off. I'm prepared to talk about the certified tax rate and how to fund the school system's request. If you want to take that time tonight and do that, I'm prepared to do that. If you want let's pass some of this. One is, what the legal side sheet is the revenues for, the local revenues for schools. And then the PowerPoint has, we'll talk about certified tax rate and school revenue. Everybody get a copy? Am I good? First, let's talk about the certified tax rate. If you'll go to the first page of the PowerPoint. All right, it was a reappraisal year. The assessor's office, this was a culmination. I mean, they're reappraising property every year. But every 5 years, they go through the mass reappraisal. And the state takes the new assessments and calculates a tax rate that is better, I guess better reflects the market values, the appraisals do, and then you have to adjust the tax rate. And so it would generate no new revenue. There is new revenue in the results of the certified tax rate, but that's because of growth in assessments. And so, what we did is we took the current tax rate of 213, which is divided into the rates that are countywide are general fund, the Board of Education, general purpose school fund, and general debt service. Those are tax rates that are countywide. And then you have the sanitation solid waste tax rate, which is charged to properties outside the city of Morristown. Because those are the properties that we provide garbage and bulk waste pickup. So current rates are what's on your sheet there, total tax rate with all that. Let's say for a piece of property outside the city is 213. That's current. Now the certified tax rate is the next column, the 4-digit number. And that's what we did is the state came back with a certified tax rate, one rate. And then it's up to us to divide it among the funds on how we do it. And so what we did is we went and we took the current rate, the percentage that went to the school system, and we put that same percentage of the certified tax rate into this, and it ended up being 79.999 cents. Okay, general fund, same way, and ended up being 61.81 cents. And then debt service was 30.91 cents. And then sanitation, solid waste, which is the garbage fund, is 20.91 cents. Everybody follow me on that so far? And then what our practice has been through the years is to round the certified rate. So you round the general fund rate to 62 cents. That would be the new rate, going from 68 to 62. Okay, on school system would go from 88 cents to 80 cents, from 88 to 80. And then debt service would go from 34 to 31. And then solid waste or sanitation would be 23 to 21. So that would get you your certified tax rate of $1.94. The certified rate is $1.93.62 cents. We would round it to $1.94. Any questions on that? So that's where we start, and that's what you'll see in draft 2 of the budget are the certified rates and the results of the certified rate. Now, a penny on the countywide rate, a penny on the 3 funds that are charged countywide generates $154,000. Went from 137 to 154. So what we would do for schools, let's say, and you'll see, we'll take 80 cents, so we'll go 80 times 154, 154,000. And that's how we get the dollars that are in the budget. Now the 154,000 figure, okay, is calculated on a 95% collection rate. So we already have a uncollected portion already calculated in there. And then you'll see under the proposed column, we've added 3 cents for debt service. And we'll talk about that again on Thursday. So the current tax rate's $137,000 per penny. On the new certified rates, $154,000 per penny. And then on sanitation, it's $58,000 per penny. Are there any questions?
On the 95% that you've allocated for the I guess 5% that doesn't get paid, what is our actual amount that hasn't been paid
Of the
of the collections?
of the 5%?
Yes.
All right, what happens is, by the time it's turned over to the clerk and master's office, and we file suit to collect the taxes, you're at 99% collection, between 98.5 and 99% collection. Questions? Okay, let's go to the next page. Okay, the school system has asked for level funding. And what that means is this year that the maintenance of effort, is what, under state law, the county is responsible for funding no less than. So the maintenance of effort for this fiscal year is $27,156,092. That's the maintenance of effort. Then, this time last year, you decided to appropriate $200,000 in addition of non-recurring funding. So that did not add to your maintenance of effort. So that's where you are right now. And this year that we're ending today is you had a maintenance of effort of $27,156,092. Then you had $200,000 of non-recurring. Okay, now on if you'll look in this table, you'll see the budget for this year, the budget amount for current year property tax, trustees prior year, which is the 1-year delinquent taxes, not the ones that go to court yet. Your payment in lieu of taxes for local utilities, which is Marshtown Utilities, the local option sales tax and bank excise taxes. These are the revenue codes and the revenue lines that are changing in the school budget. And you'll see that, look on your legal sheet, and you'll see that. Those are the areas that changed either up or down. The rest of them stayed the same in our estimations. So on current year property tax, at an 80-cent tax rate, at $154,000, that's $12,320,000, which is $264,000 more than what was budgeted for this current year that we're just finishing. So there's growth there of $264,000. All right, then in the prior year taxes, we're estimating that from budget to budget, from this year, that first line on the left, to the third line, then it's $35,000 less for the coming year. And part of that is because we moved some pennies, some of the property tax rate, from schools to the general fund for this year. So that means that the prior year taxes that'll be collected next year will be less for schools. Then the payment in lieu of taxes for local utilities is going up, $16,000 for schools. And then the big question mark is sales tax. We had a good sales tax report for this month, and so what we're anticipating is that we'll finish this year with $14,692,000 in sales tax, which is more than what we budgeted for this year. But we are estimating and want to budget $14 million in sales tax for next year, which is a $265,000 decrease budget to budget. Not actual, or what we project, but budget to budget. So that's about a 2%, just under a 2% decrease. If you compare actual or projected, the 14.69 million versus 14 million, that's a 4.7% reduction in sales tax. So just being conservative with our estimates on sales tax. And then bank excise tax, which is based on, it's a tax paid by banks based on their profitability, and we estimate that there'll be an increase in that for next year of $20,000. So all that said is that the revenue that's shown on the legal sheet matches the $27,156,092 plus the 200. So it's the same amount, $27,356,092. So that's level funding. Now the question is, you want to increase maintenance of effort by $200,000 and make the 200 permanent, or do you want to, and you can, appropriate it on a non-reoccurring basis, or you don't have to appropriate it at all? I guess the bottom line in the story of this story is you can fund the school system what they've asked for, and you don't have to raise any new revenue. And you can do it conservatively on your tax estimates.
That 200,000 would do it
Now the 200,000,
for maintenance of effort.
yeah. I mean, you could do it maintenance of effort, or you could do it
If
non-recurring.
you don't, you're coming up short.
Pardon?
If you don't, you're gonna be coming up 200,000 short.
Less than what they requested, yes.
How much was it, 150, 200, or what was it?
All right, say that again.
How much was it, 150 or 200 that we let them have, like, we let them have
200, 200. It was 200 last year.
and they come within 200,000 this year. If they get that 200,000 as maintenance of effort, they'll make it.
If they do it as maintenance of effort or non-reoccurring, either one, either way, it's up to you.
If not, you gotta go to debt service to get it.
No, they just won't get it.
Huh?
They just won't get it. No, if there's money available to give them what they ask for, okay, it's just, do you do it as maintenance of effort, or do you do it as non-recurring for 200,000 of it? Do you do it the same way you did it this year?
If 200,000 is reoccurring,
Right.
same thing.
Same thing,
Mayor,
Push it
could
out
you,
year after year, next thing.
same. This will be the third year that we've done, third year in a row.
give us a quick history of how maintenance of effort grows.
What do you mean?
Well, from year to year, I mean, each year, that possibility's there. I know last year we went to a certain point and we added to 200 of non-reoccurring.
In the presentation that I made on the overview, it's got like about a 6-year history
Okay.
of it.
Okay.
Some years, most years it increased, not every year.
Generally speaking, it's what we do.
That's a history, yeah.
Can I go ahead and make that motion, make it 200,000 to make it non-recurring?
I
Read.
have a motion,
Which
to
way?
make it non-recurring, is that correct?
What's your motion?
Make it, sorry, non-reoccurring. In other words, one time, 200,000.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
What does that do for us next year? I mean, we don't know the numbers. What does that mean?
We're back here at the same point.
Same point.
That'll make us even tilt what they got this year.
Correct.
It makes it even.
It'll fund what they requested.
They're not looking for $400,000 shortfall.
No.
This year, they looked for 531 last year. They're not looking for a shortfall this year.
No.
Any further discussion?
Is there any particular reason that we want to use the $200,000 for this year?
School buses, right? School buses.
This school budget?
School buses?
School budget?
Buses, yeah, sorry.
Any further discussion or questions?
Non-reoccurring, right?
That's the motion.
Keep in mind that the school system's going to incur more expenses this year just simply because of
Absolutely.
what they're going through. And I think Dr. Perry and his folks have done an outstanding job of pulling things together without coming in and asking for a great deal of money. So I think this is really what we need to do.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, you probably need to do a roll call because we have some folks who have conflicts that they'll need.
Jeff Baker,
Yes.
Eileen Arnline,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Abstain for cause, please.
Randy DeBoer,
Yes.
Thomas Doty,
Yes.
Tim Goins,
Aye.
Bobby Hahn,
Abstain for cause.
Tim Horner,
Abstain for cause.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Mike Nemick is absent, Wayne Neesmith,
Yes.
Howard Shipley is absent, Jim Stepp,
Yes.
Taylor Ward is absent. 8 yes, 3 abstain, and 3 absent, so motion passes.
Motion carries. Any further discussion?
No, sir. On Thursday, we'll meet Thursday at 5. We'll talk about debt service and highway capital projects. And then next week, we'll get into the general fund and bring draft 2 of the general fund.
So we have a meeting Thursday.
Yes.
Wasn't on this.
July the 2nd.